Freewell has just released a very interesting filter for the Mavic Air 2S. This filter combines a variable neutral density filter with a diffusion filter. This filter is a great addition if you're looking for a mist filter for your drone shots, since you're not able to stack filters like you are with a traditional camera. The two filters in this pack are the 2 to 5 and the 6 to 9 stop filters with hard stops on them. This is nice because you can't over or under adjust the filters. So there is a little bit of cross polarization on these, even with the hard stops. We'll go over that a little bit later. My favorite part of these filters is the fact that it gives you a gentle mist or diffusion effect to our footage. A common complaint of DJI drones is that the footage is a little too digital and sharpened. If we apply a gentle amount of mist or diffusion to our image, we'll help cut down on that sharpness and it will result in a natural looking image. This is a stylistic choice, so if you're shooting something technical like real estate or surveying land, this filter probably isn't right for the job. However, if you want to shoot cinematic looking footage with this filter, I think this is going to be great to have in your kit. A nice part about these filters is that you can leave the filter on and still attach the gimbal guard while the filter is attached. They're also able to be left on the drone while the gimbal is turned on and calibrating. VND filters are also nice because of the incremental adjustments you can make. If setting 2 or ND4 is not enough for you, but setting 3 or ND8 is too much, you can leave it somewhere in the middle and get the exposure that you really need. Be careful not to get any fingerprints on this lens though, because while you're adjusting it, it's really easy to smudge the edges of the lens, and one smudge could potentially ruin your shots. Like most filters, this has a slight color cast that comes along with the filter. I find that it skews a little warmer and it has a green tint to it in my use. To get around this, manually adjusting each time, I made a LUT that corrects this for me, and I just add this LUT before any other LUTs before my final grading, and it's been another step, but it's also just applying a LUT, so it's not that difficult. I made a LUT pack for the Mavic Air 2S that corrects normal, D-Log, and HLG to natural looking colors, as well as some creative LUTs specifically for the Mavic Air 2S. I've also included my Mist VND correction LUT in that pack, along with some others as well. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. The biggest downside of variable neutral density filters is that they actually have the cross polarization issues if you use them at the high strengths. That's why the new wave of hard stop VND filters has been great to avoid some of this, but just like Freewell's normal VND filters, these mist filters also have some cross polarization issues. Let's take a closer look at that against a whiteboard. First up, we have the no filter, and this is what our lens looks like against our whiteboard. The 2 to 5 filter has an arrow and then 2 to 5 stops. The arrow isn't quite bright as no filter, but it's also not as dark as setting 2. So it's nice to use if you're in a darker environment and you still don't need the ND filter, but you want to use the filter for the diffusion. Taking a look at 2, if we look at the upper left and lower right, we can start to notice some gentle vignetting happening. 3, we're seeing the vignetting come out a little bit more, but it's not overkill. 4 is where we're starting to be able to notice the vignetting coming out through our whiteboard, and setting 5 is starting to creep into that unusable territory for me, as the vignetting is just distracting and looks unnatural. Hopping over to the 6 to 9 filter, we can see why using a different filter is so beneficial. Setting 6 is night and day difference from setting 5 on the previous filter. We can see some slight vignetting against our whiteboard, but in real life use, you'd be hard pressed to find this unless you were really looking for it. Setting 7 is where we're starting to see vignetting a little more, but it's still usable for real-life applications in my opinion. Setting 8 is where we're really starting to see the vignetting, and you can easily see this on our whiteboard and while filming outside. Setting 9 is unusable in my opinion, and the vignetting is just too aggressive and distracting. The cross polarization is typically enough for me to resist using VNDs, especially if you're filming on bright days and have to use the most aggressive strengths on each filter. However, this filter has the diffusion built in, and I've been reaching for these filters more than my dedicated ND filters, which I was really surprised about. The image coming out of the diffused VNDs was exactly what I was looking for to cut down on that clinical, over-sharpened image that DJI drones typically have. The image coming out of diffused VNDs is exactly what I was looking for to cut down on that clinical, over-sharpened look that's common amongst DJI drones. When I'm going to use setting 5, I typically just use the 6 to 9 filter and use it at 6, and then just slightly raise my ISO on the drone to compensate for that dark filter. This removes that strong vignetting around the outside and makes it a more usable image in my opinion. Even with the color cast that comes along with this filter, I'm still comfortable using it on my drone and just correcting those colors in post with my LUT and grading it like normal footage. I love the slight diffusion and blooming effect that comes along with this filter. If you're interested in my LUT pack for the Mavic Air 2S, check out the link in the description below to learn more. If you're interested about Freewell VND filters, check out my Mavic Air 2 Freewell VND video. This was with the Mavic Air 2 and not the Mavic Air 2S, but the concepts are still the same. I'll leave a link to that here, and I just want to say thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.